The office building stretched into the Manhattan night like a glass monument to ambition, its windows glowing amber against the December cold. Clara Evans pressed her palms against the 42nd floor window, watching the city pulse below while the rest of her floor remained tomb silent. Her reflection stared back, hollow-eyed and pale, framed by the scattered chaos of her cubicle. 11:47 p.m. The numbers on her computer screen burned into her vision as she saved the quarterly report for the third time. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, leaving a bitter film on her tongue that matched the taste of another night sacrificed to someone else's deadline. "Just 5 more minutes," she whispered to the empty space. The landline's shrill ring shattered the silence like a gunshot. Clara's hand froze over her mouse. Nobody called the office landline anymore. Not at midnight, not ever. The sound cut through the air again, demanding, alien in the sterile quiet. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the receiver. "Hello? This is Clara Evans." Silence stretched across the line, heavy and deliberate. Then a voice emerged from the void, low and commanding, each word measured like a physical touch. "Where's the file?" Clara's chest tightened. She scanned her desk, the scattered folders and post-it notes suddenly feeling like evidence of some crime she didn't remember committing. "I'm sorry. You must have the wrong number. This is just an office line. Don't play games with me." The voice carried no warmth, only certainty. "Where's the file?" Ice crawled down her spine. This wasn't a question. It was an order from someone who expected obedience without explanation. "I think you have the wrong person." "I don't know what you're talking about." Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice held a note of dark amusement. "Clara Evans." Her name rolled off his tongue like he'd spoken it 1,000 times before, like he owned it. "Who is this?" The words came out as a whisper. "You'll know soon enough." His reply was silk wrapped around steel. "From now on, you're mine." The line went dead. Clara sat frozen, the receiver pressed against her ear, her heart hammering against her ribs. The echo of his final words pounded through her mind. Mine. The word carried weight, possession, inevitability. She set the phone down with shaking hands. The office felt different now, charged with an energy that made her skin crawl. Every shadow seemed deeper, every corner more threatening. She grabbed her bag and fled toward the elevator, her heels clicking against marble like a countdown. In the lobby, the night security guard barely looked up from his newspaper, unaware that something fundamental had shifted in the building above. The subway ride home blurred past in a haze of neon and underground darkness. Clara pressed herself into the corner of her seat, replaying every word of the conversation. A file, her name spoken with absolute certainty. A stranger who claimed ownership over her like she was something he'd already purchased. When she finally reached her studio apartment, the familiar space felt contaminated. She double-locked the door and drew the curtains, but couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Her phone sat silent on the nightstand, but somehow felt heavy with unspoken promises. Clara lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, knowing sleep would be impossible. Somewhere in the city, a man with a voice like velvet and steel was thinking about her, planning something, moving pieces on a board where she didn't even know she was playing. The next morning arrived gray and unforgiving. Clara moved through her routine on autopilot, brewing coffee too strong and catching the subway with seconds to spare. She'd almost convinced herself the call had been some elaborate wrong number when she walked into her office. A crowd had gathered around the reception desk. Voices buzzed with gossip and speculation. Clara slowed, dread pooling in her stomach as she saw what had captured everyone's attention. Red roses and white orchids towered above the reception counter in an arrangement that belonged in a luxury hotel, not a mid-tier consulting firm. The scent hit her like a physical force, rich and intoxicating and impossible to ignore. "Clara." The receptionist's voice cut through the chatter. "These are for you." Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned toward her. Clara felt heat rise to her cheeks as she approached the counter on unsteady legs. "For me?" That has to be a mistake. But the receptionist was already holding out a heavy envelope embossed with 2 letters in elegant script. DB. Clara's hands shook as she opened the card. The message was brief, written in confident handwriting that matched the voice from the night before. "Wrong numbers are rarely accidents. Looking forward to meeting you properly. Damian Blackwell." The name hit her like cold water. Damian Blackwell, the billionaire whose face graced financial magazines and gossip columns with equal frequency. The CEO of Blackwell Enterprises, whose every business deal made headlines and whose romantic conquests filled tabloid pages. Whispers erupted around her. Someone muttered about sugar daddies. Another voice suggested she'd been hiding a secret relationship. Clara clutched the card, feeling exposed and marked in a way that made her want to disappear. She pushed through the crowd toward her cubicle, but there was no escaping the weight of their stares, or the realization that somehow, impossibly, one of the most powerful men in the city had decided she belonged to him, and she had no idea why. The flowers haunted Clara's cubicle for 3 days, their perfume growing heavier and more suffocating with each passing hour. Co-workers continued to steal glances and whisper behind hands, their speculation ranging from admiration to suspicion. Clara had shoved the arrangement under her desk, but the damage was done. She was no longer invisible. On Thursday evening, as she prepared to leave, her computer chimed with a new email. The sender's address made her blood freeze. D. Blackwell, BlackwellEnterprises.com. Clara, dinner tomorrow. Don't disappoint me. DB, no question mark. No polite request. Just an order delivered with the casual authority of a man accustomed to absolute compliance. Clara stared at the screen until the words blurred. Lamandine was the kind of restaurant where reservations required months of planning and bank accounts she couldn't fathom. The kind of place where her entire monthly salary might cover an appetizer. She closed the laptop and fled. But Friday evening found her standing outside Lamandine anyway, wrapped in her only decent dress and shivering in the December wind. She'd told herself she was going to confront him, to demand answers about the phone call and the flowers and his presumptuous claim over her life. The maitre d' recognized Damian's name immediately, his professional smile widening as he led her through a dining room that felt more like a temple than a restaurant. Crystal and candlelight danced across cream-colored walls while conversations hummed in hushed, reverent tones. Clara's heart hammered as they approached a corner table where a man sat with his back to the room, silhouette commanding. When he turned, her breath caught. Damian Blackwell was nothing like his magazine photos suggested. Those images captured his sharp features and dark hair, but they missed the predatory intelligence in his gray eyes, the way he seemed to calculate the worth of everything around him with a single glance. He wore power like a second skin, and when he smiled, it was the expression of a hunter who'd found his prey. Clara. He stood, his voice the same velvet and steel from the phone call. You came. I came for answers, she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. Of course you did. He pulled out her chair with old-fashioned courtesy that felt more like a trap than politeness. Sit. We have a great deal to discuss. The wine he'd already ordered cost more than her rent. Clara barely touched it, too aware of how he watched her every movement with the focus of a scientist studying a fascinating specimen. Why me? The question burst from her lips before she could stop it. I don't understand what you want. Damian leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming against the pristine tablecloth. You really don't know, do you? Know what? What you have. What you're worth. His eyes held hers with unsettling intensity. Tell me, Clara, what do you remember about your father? The question hit like a physical blow. Clara's father had died when she was 8, leaving behind only vague memories and a mountain of debt her mother had spent years crawling out from under. My father has nothing to do with this, doesn't he? Damian's smile turned sharp. Marcus Evans was a very interesting man, an accountant for some very powerful people who trusted him with secrets worth killing for. Clara's hands clenched in her lap. My father was a simple accountant. He died in a car accident. Car accidents can be arranged. Damian's voice was casual, conversational, especially when someone starts asking inconvenient questions about money that's gone missing. The restaurant seemed to tilt around her. You're lying. Your father discovered something he shouldn't have. A file containing evidence that could destroy some very important people. He hid it before they could silence him permanently. Damian reached into his jacket and placed a photograph on the table. Recognize this? Clara stared at the image. It was her father, younger than she remembered, standing outside a building she didn't recognize. But it was definitely him. The same kind eyes and gentle smile that had haunted her dreams for 20 years. He sent you a birthday card every year until he died, Damian continued. Always from a different city. Always unsigned. Your mother threw them away, but I'm sure you remember them. Clara's throat closed. She did remember. Unsigned cards that had arrived like clockwork until her 8th birthday, when they'd stopped forever. How do you know about those? Because I've been looking for that file for 5 years. His voice softened, became almost gentle. You, Clara Evans, are the key to finding it. She pushed back from the table, the chair scraping against marble. This is insane. I don't have any file. I don't know anything about my father's work. Maybe not consciously. Damian's voice followed her as she stood. But he left you clues. He had to. He loved you too much to let his secrets die with him. I'm leaving. No. The single word carried absolute authority. Damian stood, his full height imposing as he moved around the table with predatory grace. He didn't touch her, but his presence was a cage. Sit down, Clara. Because if you walk out of here, the people who killed your father will know I've found you, and they'll come for you just like they came for him. Clara's legs trembled. What people? The kind who don't leave witnesses. He gestured to her chair. Sit. Let me explain what your father died protecting. Let me explain why you're the most dangerous person in New York right now. And why would I trust you? Damian's smile held no warmth. Because, sweetheart, I'm the only one who wants to keep you alive long enough to find what we're both looking for. The weight of his words settled over her like snow. Clara looked at the exit, at the other diners eating their perfect meals in their perfect ignorance, at the life she'd had just days ago slipping further out of reach. Then she looked at Damian Blackwell, at the cold calculation in his eyes and the promise of answers she'd never known she needed. She sat down. Tell me everything. Damian's smile widened, victorious and terrifying. Your father wasn't just an accountant, Clara. He was the accountant, the man who knew where every body was buried, every dollar was hidden, every secret was kept, and somewhere in your memories, he left you the map to find it all. Damian's penthouse overlooked Central Park like a king surveying his kingdom. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city in gold and shadow, while inside, minimalist luxury whispered of wealth beyond calculation. Clara stood in the center of it all, feeling like an artifact he'd acquired. 3 days had passed since the dinner. 3 days of Damian's security team shadowing her every move. 3 days of him appearing at her apartment with files, photographs, and questions that scraped at memories she'd buried for 20 years. Now he'd brought her here, to his inner sanctum, where boxes lined the dining table like evidence at a crime scene. Your father sent 73 birthday cards before he died, Damian said, spreading them across the mahogany surface. Each envelope was yellowed with age, postmarked from different cities. Your mother kept them. She lied to you about throwing them away. Clara's fingers trembled as she picked one up. The handwriting was achingly familiar, even after all these years. How did you get these? I bought them from your mother. His voice held no apology. She needed money. I needed answers. The betrayal hit her like a slap. You went to my mother? I go where the trail leads. Damian moved beside her, his presence overwhelming in the intimate space. Look at the postmarks. Seattle, Boston, Denver, Miami. Your father was running, Clara, moving every few weeks. Terrified. But he still sent you cards. She opened one with shaking hands. Inside was a simple drawing of a sunflower, the petals colored in crayon yellows and oranges. He always drew sunflowers, she whispered, the memory surfaced like something drowning. He said I was his sunshine. Look closer. Damian handed her a magnifying glass. Clara held it over the drawing, and her breath caught. Hidden in the petals were numbers. Tiny, deliberate, barely visible. He was sending you coordinates, Damian said softly. Every card contains part of a sequence. I've been trying to decode them for months, but there's a pattern I can't crack, something only you would understand. Clara spread the cards across the table, her mind racing. 73 cards, 73 drawings, all sunflowers but each slightly different. The petals, she breathed. They're not random. She arranged them by the number of petals. 8 petals, 13, 21, 34. Fibonacci sequence, Damian said, recognition dawning in his eyes. Your father was a mathematician before he became an accountant. He used to quiz me, Clara said, the memories flooding back now. Before bed, he'd ask me what came next in the pattern. I always got it right because I wanted to make him proud. So the cards are ordered by Fibonacci numbers. Damian was already pulling up a program on his laptop, which means the coordinates form a specific location when arranged correctly. They worked in silence, Clara's hands sorting while Damian input the numbers. The city glittered beyond the windows, oblivious to the secrets being unearthed in the penthouse above. Finally, the program chimed. Storage facility, Damian said. Queens, Unit 847. Clara's heart raced. That's where the file is? That's where we'll find answers. He closed the laptop, his expression unreadable. We go tomorrow. First light. Why not now? Because the people who killed your father have been watching that facility for years. We need a plan. He turned to her and something shifted in his gaze. Less calculation, more heat. And because you're exhausted. You need rest. I can't rest. Not with all this. Clara. The way he said her name made her skin tingle. He stepped closer, and she could smell his cologne, expensive and intoxicating. You're safe here. I promise you that. Why? The question came out raw. Why do you care if I'm safe? You just want the file. Something flickered across his face. Vulnerability, maybe, or regret. My father was in that file, he said quietly. One of the names your father was going to expose. Michael Blackwell built his empire on blood money and buried bodies. When your father threatened to reveal everything, my father was one of the men who gave the order. Clara's world tilted. Your father killed mine? I was 17 when it happened. I didn't know until years later, after my father died and I inherited his sins along with his fortune. Damian's jaw tightened. I've spent the last 5 years trying to find that file, to expose everyone involved, to burn down the empire my father built on your father's grave. So this is about redemption for you. This is about making things right. He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek with unexpected gentleness, and about keeping you alive long enough to see justice done. Clara should have pulled away, should have been terrified of this man who'd turned her life upside down, but the warmth of his touch sent electricity through her veins, and the intensity in his eyes held a promise she didn't dare name. What happens after we find the file? She whispered. Then we destroy everyone who destroyed our fathers. His thumb traced her lower lip. Together. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Clara's breath came shallow as Damian leaned closer, his mouth hovering inches from hers. Say yes, he murmured. Say you're with me. Before she could answer, the penthouse lights went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Damian's hand went to Clara's wrist, pulling her close. Someone cut the power, he said, his voice deadly calm. They're here. Through the windows, Clara saw shadows moving on the terrace. 3 figures dressed in black, faces obscured. How did they find us? Damian's expression turned to stone as realization hit. He pulled out his phone, checking something that made his face go pale. The security team I assigned to you, he said slowly. One of them has been feeding information to the other side. Which one? I don't know yet. He moved to a panel on the wall, pressing his palm against it. A hidden compartment opened, revealing an arsenal. But we're about to find out who wants you dead badly enough to come for you in my own home. Glass shattered as the terrace doors exploded inward. The figures moved with military precision, spreading through the penthouse. Damian pressed a gun into Clara's hands. Can you shoot? I've never held a gun in my life. Point and pull the trigger. Aim for center mass. He kissed her forehead, quick and fierce. Stay behind me. No matter what happens, stay behind me. The first figure rounded the corner, weapon raised. Damian fired. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The figure dropped, and chaos erupted. Clara's hand shook as she gripped the gun. Her father's cards scattered across the floor like fallen petals. Everything she'd learned tonight, every revelation about her past and Damian's guilt, and the twisted connection between them, all of it narrowed to this single moment of survival. A second figure appeared, moving toward them with deadly intent. Clara raised the gun, her finger finding the trigger, and for the first time in her life, She understood exactly what her father had died protecting. Not just a file, the truth that some secrets are worth killing for, and some people are worth dying to protect. The gunshot still echoed in Clara's ears when the second figure fell. Damian moved through the penthouse like a ghost, efficient and lethal. Clara followed, the gun heavy in her trembling hands, her father's birthday cards crushed beneath her feet. The third attacker was gone, vanished into the red-lit darkness. "We need to move," Damian said, already gathering the cards from the floor with meticulous care. "They'll send more. Who are they?" "The consortium. The men your father tried to expose." He pulled her toward a private elevator hidden behind a bookshelf. "The same men who've been hunting this file for 20 years. The elevator descended into a parking garage Clara didn't know existed. Damian's hand never left her lower back, protective and possessive in equal measure. His car was a sleek black monster that probably cost more than her entire life savings. He drove like a man fleeing demons, weaving through Manhattan traffic with reckless precision. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe. Somewhere they won't think to look." 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a modest brownstone in Brooklyn. Nothing about it suggested wealth or power. It looked like any other building on the tree-lined street. Inside was different. High-tech security, reinforced walls, a safe house designed to withstand siege. "How many of these do you have?" Clara asked. "Enough." Damian moved to a computer terminal, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "I'm pulling the security footage from the penthouse. We need to identify who betrayed us." Clara sank onto a leather couch, adrenaline finally draining from her system. The gun sat on the coffee table between them, a reminder of how quickly her life had become unrecognizable. Damian's face went cold as he watched the screen. "What is it?" "The third attacker." His voice was flat, emotionless. "I know who it was." He turned the laptop toward her. The footage showed the figure escaping across the terrace, and just before disappearing, they'd looked back toward the camera. The face was clear, young, familiar. "That's your assistant," Clara breathed. "Marcus." "I've seen him at your office." "Not just my assistant." Damian's hands clenched into fists. "My half-brother." The revelation hit like a physical blow. "What?" "My father's illegitimate son, born 6 months after me to a woman he kept hidden for years." Damian's laugh was bitter. "I gave him everything, a job, a place in the company, a chance to be part of the family he was denied, and he's been selling me out to the people who killed your father." "Why would he do that?" "Because Marcus believes he deserves the Blackwell empire more than I do. Because he hates me for being legitimate when he was kept secret. Because the consortium promised him everything I have if he delivered you in the file." Clara stood, moving toward him. The anger radiating from Damian was palpable, dangerous. "We can still get to the storage facility," she said. "We can still find the file before he does." "No." Damian's eyes met hers, and what she saw there terrified her. "We can't." "What do you mean?" "Marcus was in the penthouse when we decoded the cards. He heard everything. The location, the unit number, everything." His fist slammed against the wall. "He's probably there right now, taking what we spent 5 years searching for." "Then we go after him." "We fight. Against the entire consortium? With just the two of us?" Damian shook his head. "They'll kill you, Clara. The moment they have that file, they'll eliminate every loose end. And you're the biggest loose end of all. So what do we do?" He turned away from her, his shoulders rigid with tension. "I get you out of the country. New identity, new life. Somewhere they'll never find you. And you? I stay and fight. Buy you time to disappear." Clara's heart clenched. "That's not a plan. That's a suicide mission. It's the only way to keep you safe." "No." She moved in front of him, forcing him to look at her. "I didn't survive all this just to run and hide while you get yourself killed. We're in this together. You said it yourself. I was wrong to involve you. You didn't involve me. My father did 20 years ago. This is my fight as much as yours." Damian's composure cracked. He pulled her against him, his arms wrapping around her with desperate strength. "I can't let them hurt you," he said against her hair. "Not like they hurt your father. Not like they hurt everyone I've ever tried to protect." Clara pulled back just enough to see his face. The vulnerability there broke something open inside her. "Then don't push me away. Trust me to stand beside you." His thumb traced her jaw, tender and reverent. "You're not what I expected, Clara Evans." "What did you expect?" "A key, a tool, a means to an end." His voice roughened. "Not someone I'd be willing to burn the world down for." The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Clara rose on her toes, closing the distance between them, and when their lips met, it was like lightning striking. The kiss was hungry and desperate, fueled by adrenaline and fear and something neither of them wanted to name. Damian's hands tangled in her hair as he pulled her closer, and Clara surrendered to the heat building between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the world felt different. Smaller, like nothing existed beyond the two of them and the impossible situation they were trapped in. "We need a new plan," Clara whispered against his mouth. "I know." His forehead rested against hers. "But first, I need you to know something." "What?" "When I called you that first night, I was looking for Marcus Evans' daughter. I knew about the cards. I knew about the file. I knew everything except what you'd be like." His hand cupped her face. "And I told myself it didn't matter. That you were just a piece in the game." Clara's chest tightened. "And now?" "Now I know I was lying to myself from the moment I heard your voice." The computer chimed, cutting through the moment. Damian moved to check it, and his expression went grave. "What is it?" "Security alert from the storage facility." He pulled up camera feeds showing men in suits surrounding the building. "Marcus and the consortium are there. They're cutting through the lock on Unit 847 right now." "Then we're too late." "Not necessarily." Damian's eyes gleamed with dangerous intelligence. "There's something I didn't tell you about your father's cards." "What?" "The coordinates we found? They're not the real location." He pulled out his phone, showing her an image of one of the sunflower drawings under different lighting. "Your father was more brilliant than anyone realized. He encoded 2 sets of coordinates in each card. The Fibonacci sequence was the obvious one, but there's another sequence hidden in the UV reactive ink." Clara stared at the revelation. He knew someone might decode the first pattern, so he hid the real location beneath it. "A location only you and I know now." Damian's smile turned predatory. "Let them waste time on the decoy. We're going after the real file. Where is it? Somewhere your father knew you'd never forget." He handed her a piece of paper with an address. "The church where he used to take you every Sunday morning." Memory flooded back. St. Catherine's. The old stone church with the garden where her father had taught her to identify flowers by their Latin names. "The file has been there all along. Hidden in plain sight. Your father was betting everything on you remembering. On you being smart enough and brave enough to find it when the time came." Clara looked at the address, at the man standing beside her, at the impossible choice ahead. "If we do this," she said slowly, "if we expose the consortium and everyone in that file, there's no going back. Your father's name will be destroyed. Your entire family legacy. My father's legacy is built on blood." Damian's voice was steel. "Let it burn. And Marcus? My brother made his choice when he sided with the people who killed yours." Something cold and final settled over Damian's features. "Now he'll live with the consequences." Clara nodded, understanding what he wasn't saying. This wouldn't end with simple exposure. This was war. "Then let's finish what our fathers started." Damian pulled her close one more time, kissing her with a fierce possessiveness that promised both protection and ruin. "Together," he murmured against her lips. "No matter what comes." "Together," she agreed. Neither of them saw the red targeting laser that appeared on the window behind them. Neither noticed the figure on the roof across the street, finger on the trigger. Marcus Blackwell watched through his rifle scope, his brother and Clara framed perfectly in his sights, and smiled as he prepared to eliminate both loose ends at once. The red dot appeared on Damian's chest for less than a second before Clara saw it. Instinct took over. She threw herself against him, sending them both crashing to the floor as the window exploded inward. The bullet meant for Damian's heart buried itself in the wall above them. "Sniper!" Damian shouted, covering her body with his as a second shot shattered the overhead light. They crawled behind the reinforced concrete support column, glass raining down around them. Damian pulled out his phone with shaking hands. "The safe house is compromised. Marcus must have tracked us. He's not going to stop," Clara said, her mind racing. Even if we get to the file, even if we expose everything, he'll keep coming. I know. Damian's voice was grim, which is why I'm calling in a favor. He dialed a number, speaking rapidly in Russian to whoever answered. When he hung up, his expression was unreadable. Who was that? Someone who owes me enough to start a war. He met her eyes. But first, we need to get out of here alive. They moved through the safe house in synchronized silence, years of his training and her survival instinct merging into something seamless. The basement exit led to a tunnel system Damian had built for exactly this scenario. They emerged 3 blocks away, stealing a car with practiced efficiency that would have shocked Clara a week ago. Now, nothing shocked her anymore. St. Catherine's rose against the dawn sky like a memory made solid. The old stone church looked exactly as Clara remembered, weathered and beautiful, the garden wild with winter dormancy. Your father chose this place for a reason, Damian said as they approached. Religious sanctuary, historical protection, and personal significance. He used to say this was the only place he felt safe. Clara's voice caught, even from his own demons. Inside, the church was silent and empty. Early morning light filtered through stained glass, painting the pews in colors that felt holy. Clara walked straight to the altar, her feet remembering the path. Behind it was the garden entrance, and in the garden, a statue of St. Catherine herself, patron saint of those facing death. The Latin inscription, Clara whispered, reading the worn words at the statue's base. He made me memorize it. What does it say? Veritas vos liberabit. The truth will set you free. She knelt, feeling along the statue's base until her fingers found the hidden seam. He always said knowledge was the only real freedom. The compartment opened with a soft click. Inside was a weatherproof case, small and innocuous. Clara's hands trembled as she lifted it out. 20 years, she breathed. 20 years it's been here. Damian opened the case carefully. Inside was a single flash drive and a letter addressed to Clara in her father's handwriting. Read it, he said gently. Clara unfolded the letter with shaking hands. My dearest sunshine, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And you've grown into the brilliant woman I always knew you'd become. I'm sorry for the burden I'm leaving you. Sorry for the secrets and the danger. Sorry for not being there to protect you as you face what's coming. The drive contains everything. Names, transactions, evidence that will destroy powerful people. I couldn't release it while I was alive because they would have hurt you and your mother. But I knew someday you'd be strong enough to finish what I started. Trust sparingly. Love fiercely. And remember that some legacies are worth dying for. The man who helps you find this? Be careful. The Blackwell family is complicated and their sins run deep. But if Michael's son has found his conscience, then maybe redemption is possible for all of us. I love you, Clara. Always. Your father. Clara's tears fell onto the paper, blurring the ink. Damian's hand found hers, squeezing gently. He knew, she whispered. He knew it would be you. He was betting on me being better than my father. Damian's voice was rough. I hope he was right. Clara pocketed the drive and stood. Now what? Now we make a choice. Damian pulled out his phone, showing her a news alert. Marcus and the consortium found the decoy. They think they have the real file, which gives us exactly one opportunity. To do what? To decide whether we want justice or revenge. Clara looked at him, really looked at him. The man who'd turned her life upside down with a midnight phone call. The man who carried his father's sins like chains. The man who'd just risked everything to keep her alive. What's the difference? Justice means we release the file publicly. Expose everyone. Let the courts and the public destroy them legally. His jaw tightened. Revenge means we use it as leverage. Trade their secrets for their surrender. Make them disappear quietly and keep the file as insurance. And if we choose revenge, then we become exactly what they are. Powerful, untouchable, complicit. He stepped closer. But alive. Together. Free from this fight forever. Clara's father's letter weighed heavy in her pocket. The drive felt like it was burning through her clothes. My father died because he believed in the truth, she said slowly, because he thought exposure was worth the sacrifice. And look where it got him. Dead, but not broken. Clara met Damian's eyes. If we hide this, if we use it for our own protection, then he died for nothing. If we release it, we paint targets on our backs forever. The consortium won't forgive this, neither will the dozens of other powerful people in that file. I know. Clara. He gripped her shoulders. I didn't spend 5 years searching just to watch you get killed for someone else's crusade. It's not someone else's crusade. It's mine now. She placed her hand over his heart. And it's yours too. You said you wanted to burn down your father's empire. Here's your chance. Before he could respond, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered it on speaker. Clara Evans. The voice was cold, refined, unmistakably Marcus. I know you're at St. Catherine's. I know you have the real file. And I'm offering you one chance to walk away. By doing what? Clara asked. Give me the drive. Disappear. Take my brother with you and never come back to New York. I'll tell the consortium the file was destroyed. You get to live. And everyone your father and his friends killed, everyone they destroyed, they just get forgotten? They're already forgotten, Clara. That's how power works. Marcus's voice turned sharp. You have 1 hour to decide. After that, I'm done being merciful. The line went dead. Damian's phone buzzed immediately after. The security system at the church perimeter had been breached. Multiple vehicles, armed men taking positions. They're surrounding us, he said quietly. Marcus wants us trapped when we refuse his offer. Clara looked at the flash drive in her hand. Such a small thing, such enormous weight. Can you upload it from here? If I can get to a secure network. But it'll take time we don't have if they're planning to breach. Clara's mind worked through possibilities, outcomes, sacrifices. Then she understood what needed to happen. You're going to upload it, she said firmly, and I'm going to buy you that time. Absolutely not, Damian. She grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. You know there's no other way. Someone has to hold them off while the upload completes, and you're the only one who knows how to do it right. I'm not letting you die for this, and I'm not letting my father's death be meaningless. Her voice broke. This is what he wanted, what he died hoping I'd be brave enough to do. Clara, please. No. She kissed him, hard and desperate, pouring everything she felt into that single moment. When she pulled back, her eyes were fierce. Upload the file. Expose them all. Let the world see what they did. What about us? We were never going to get an us. Her smile was sad and beautiful. People like me don't get happy endings with people like you, but we can make sure the next generation does. Damian's hands shook as he cupped her face. I love you. I need you to know that. I've never said it to anyone, but I'm saying it now. I love you, Clara Evans. I know. Tears streamed down her face. I love you too, which is why you're going to let me go. She pressed the drive into his hand, then turned toward the garden entrance before she could lose her nerve. How long do you need? She called back. 15 minutes. Then I'll give you 20. Clara walked out into the garden where her father had once taught her flower names. The morning sun painted everything gold. She could see the men positioning themselves beyond the gates, could see Marcus directing them with cold precision. She raised her hands, walking toward them slowly. I'm Clara Evans, she called out. I'm unarmed. I want to talk to Marcus Blackwell. Marcus emerged from behind a car, his expression unreadable. Where's my brother? Inside, praying. Clara kept her hands visible. He wanted me to negotiate terms. There are no terms. Give me the drive. I don't have it. Damian does. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Then you're useless, am I? Clara stepped closer, gambling everything on her read of the situation. I'm the one who decoded the cards. I'm the one who knows where everything else is hidden. My father didn't put all his secrets in one place, Marcus. He was smarter than that. The lie rolled off her tongue smoothly, desperately. Behind her, she could feel time ticking down. 13 minutes? 14. You're lying. Then shoot me and find out. Clara raised her chin. But if I'm telling the truth, you'll have killed the only person who can lead you to the rest. Marcus studied her, calculating odds the way his brother would. That genetic similarity that made them both dangerous and brilliant. Where are the other files? I'll tell you after you call off your men. After you guarantee Damian walks out of here alive. You'd trade his life for yours? I'd trade anything for his life. The truth of it rang in her voice. That's what love means. Something you'd understand if you weren't so consumed with revenge. Marcus's expression flickered. Pain, maybe, or something close to it. He never loved me, he said quietly. Our father never acknowledged me, and Damian just pitied me, threw me scraps from his table. So you're going to kill him for it? I'm going to take what should have been mine. His gun raised. Starting now. The shot rang out, but it wasn't Marcus who fired. One of the consortium men behind him dropped, a red bloom spreading across his chest. Then another. Then 3 more. Damian's favor had arrived. Sniper teams on the surrounding rooftops, cutting through Marcus's forces with surgical precision. Chaos erupted. Marcus dove for cover as his men returned fire, but they were outmatched and outmaneuvered. Clara ran back toward the church as bullets tore through the garden. She felt one graze her shoulder, another her leg, but adrenaline kept her moving. Inside, Damian was at the altar, his laptop open, a progress bar climbing toward 100%. Clara! He caught her as she stumbled, blood soaking through her clothes. No. Did it upload? 95%. Just a few more seconds. She pressed her hand to his chest, feeling his heartbeat wild beneath her palm. Then we did it. We actually did it. The progress bar hit 100%. A confirmation message flashed across the screen. The file was live, uploading to every major news outlet simultaneously. Unstoppable now. It's done. Damian breathed. It's over. But Clara's vision was fading. She could feel the blood loss dragging her down into darkness. Stay with me, Damian begged, pressing his hands against her wounds. Please, Clara, don't leave me. Not now. Tell my story, she whispered. Tell them why we did this. You're going to tell them yourself. Sirens wailed in the distance. The upload had triggered alerts, police, federal agents, the whole world about to descend on St. Catherine's Church. Clara's eyes closed, and Damian held her, rocking back and forth, his tears falling onto her face. You're the bravest person I've ever known, he whispered. Don't you dare give up now. Then the paramedics were there, pulling her from his arms, working frantically, and the world exploded with the truth. 3 months later, Clara stood at her father's grave, the stone finally clean of the lies that had buried him. Marcus Evans, beloved father and hero. The inscription had been changed after everything came out, after the file exposed 40 years of corruption, murder, and conspiracy, after 3 senators resigned, after a dozen CEOs were indicted, after the Blackwell empire crumbled into bankruptcy and legal battles, after Marcus Blackwell was found dead in his cell, awaiting trial, a suicide the official reports called it, though Clara suspected Damian's influence had reached even there. Her shoulder still ached where the bullet had grazed her. Her leg would always carry a scar. But she was alive, walking freely through a world that finally knew the truth. Footsteps approached behind her. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. You're late, she said softly. Court ran long. Damian's arms wrapped around her from behind. The last of my father's assets were seized today. I'm officially no longer a billionaire. How does it feel? Lighter. His voice held genuine relief. Like I can finally breathe. Clara turned in his arms, studying his face. He looked different now. Softer somehow. The predatory edge worn away by testimony and truth, and rebuilding himself into someone new. Any regrets? She asked. Every day. His smile was crooked. But then I remember what we would have become if we'd chosen revenge over justice. And I'm grateful we didn't. They stood together in the cemetery. 2 people who'd chosen sacrifice over safety, truth over survival, redemption over revenge. My father was right, Clara said quietly. The truth did set us free. So was mine, Damian replied. Some legacies are worth dying for. He kissed her forehead. But I'm glad we found a way to live instead. As they walked away from the grave, the sun broke through the clouds, painting everything in gold. Behind them, the past finally laid to rest. Ahead of them, a future built on honesty instead of blood. It wouldn't be easy. The lawsuits would continue for years. The death threats from those they'd exposed still arrived daily. Their names would always carry the weight of what they'd done, but they'd done it together. And they'd survived together. And they'd chosen love over fear when everything else demanded otherwise. Sometimes that's all redemption really is. The courage to choose truth when lies would be safer. The strength to love when hate would be easier. The faith that some stories deserve to be told, no matter the cost. And this story, Clara and Damian's story, would echo through history as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, even when power seems absolute, one midnight phone call can change everything. The Untold